Good morning, everyone. This is the November 16th meeting of the Planning, Resource and Development Committee. Let's check on the roll. I think we're missing Supervisor Anderson and Supervisor Bjork. So we have, if we include Chairman Bartlett, we have 3 members. Is that sufficient for a quorum?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So we have a quorum. Approval of the minutes from October 26th. Anyone want to move that?
I'll move approval, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there a
Second. Second, Mike.
Thank you,
May I
Mike.
have just a moment to look at the quorum issue? I believe you may not have a quorum. I think an ex officio member of the committee, which is in this case is the county board chair. Would you please allow me just a second to look that up? I think you may not have a quorum.
I can count towards the quorum if the chair so asks.
Oh, yeah.
But there's three board
There's
members.
3 of us.
There's 3
Oh,
committee
all right,
members.
then.
Yeah,
never
there
mind.
are.
I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Yeah, there are 3 board members. Right.
Oh, yeah. Yes, you do. Never mind. I apologize. Somebody
Okay.
had blanked out their screen. All right.
Okay. So we have a quorum. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say no.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay. Minutes are approved. Do we have any public comments, Mr. Carlson?
No public comments were received.
Okay. Then today we have a public hearing. We'll convene the public hearing. And this is to review the final draft of the land division, condominium, and surveying regulation ordinance. I guess we already went through the roll, so have the secretary note that we have the supervisors are in attendance. We have a quorum. Do we have any? Let's see. I think with that, do we have any public comment? Well, we'll get to that later, I guess. First of all, let's have the staff confirm the open meeting and public notice.
Okay, I can do that, Tom. And just so you're aware, I believe Supervisor Bjork just joined the meeting as well. So
Okay.
Janelle would like to note that he's also in attendance at this point. So yes, thank you. Good morning, everybody. The notice of the public hearing. To all whom it may concern, in accordance with section 236.454 of the Wisconsin statutes, public notice is hereby given to all residents in Dunn County that the Dunn County Planning, Resource and Development Committee will hold a public hearing on a proposed land division, condominium, and surveying regulations ordinance final draft on November 16th, 2021 at 8:30 a.m. by teleconference due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Instructions on providing comments during the public hearing will be included on the publicly noticed Planning, Resource and Development Committee meeting agenda. A copy of the proposed ordinance is available for public inspection by appointment at the Dunn County Surveyor's Office, 3001 US Highway 12 East, Suite 240A, Menominee, Wisconsin, 54751. Contact Thomas Carlson, Dunn County Surveyor at 715-231-6526 with questions, to schedule an appointment to review the ordinance or to obtain copies of the ordinance. A copy of the proposed ordinance is also available for public inspection on the Dunn County webpage. This is the only opportunity to address the committee regarding this proposed ordinance. All interested persons are invited to participate in said hearing and be heard. These are the actual snippets out of the Dunn County News. This was on October 27th, and this was November 3rd. Here's also proof of, this is an affidavit we received from the newspaper. It's basically proof of publication. It was published on October 27th, I'm sorry, and November 3rd. Additionally, above and beyond the public notice requirements, on October 21st, I sent out a series of emails. The first email went out to all the surveyors that are working in Dunn County. There are 34 individuals on that list. Basically just notified them when the hearing is going to be. Attached 2 documents, the public hearing notice and the final draft. Told them they could certainly contact me prior to the hearing if they had any questions. I have received no public comments from the group of surveyors that received this notification. I also, on the 21st of October, sent an email out to 23 individuals made up of realtors and title companies, the same information. Haven't heard back from any of those individuals. And then also on the 21st of October, I sent an email to all the municipal chairs and clerks of all the municipal townships. And we did receive 1 public comment this morning from Tony Christofferson, which I can read when we get to that portion of the public hearing. So again, back on the 21st, which was almost a month ago, collectively, there were roughly 101 individuals that were received or that received notification of this hearing today, above and beyond which was published in the Dunn County News. So that takes care of the public notice requirements, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson. Appreciate that. I'm going to ask you if you can just provide a brief summary of the ordinance for the committee.
Sure, I'd be happy to do that. So I want to start off by saying that our current land division ordinance was adopted on March 22nd of 2006 and is certainly in need of some updates. County staff and this committee have been meeting to discuss this ordinance since about July of last year. There have been, of course, a lot of ongoing discussions, but as far as really digging into the ordinance, making suggestions, changes, tweaking it in a fashion that we're happy with, that started about July of last year. Many portions of our existing ordinance have either remained in place or have been revised to some degree in the draft ordinance you have before you. We have also introduced entirely new sections and concepts into the draft. I will now briefly summarize the draft ordinance that you have before you today. We've expanded the purpose section to provide greater protection for environmentally sensitive areas. Our definition section has been greatly expanded to include new terms such as contiguous buildable area, contiguous tract, dry land access, environmentally sensitive areas, high water elevation, lowest building opening, and wetlands. And those are just a few of the new terms. We have better defined the types of land divisions governed by this ordinance and provided more clarity with respect to parcel combinations, reconfigurations, and retracement CSMs. We have provided better clarity on what we consider to be high-value agricultural land. We've added more technical standards for certified survey maps and both preliminary and final plats, including the requirement for soil borings on all major land divisions. A minimum of 1 boring will now be required on each newly created lot. We've added some entirely new sections to the ordinance, such as abrogation and greater restrictions, non-liability, and surveying requirements and general provisions. We've greatly expanded our surface drainage and erosion control section, which will now provide more protection for those environmentally sensitive areas. We have greatly expanded the streets and road section to include standards for cul-de-sacs and private roads, along with the requirement for maintenance agreements. We've also greatly expanded the lot section of the ordinance to address items such as lot area, length to width ratios, minimum frontage, non-conforming structures, and contiguous buildable area. We've also expanded the variance, appeals, and enforcement section of the ordinance to provide better clarity. And lastly, we have removed the fee schedule from our current ordinance and will be placing it in an appendix in the new ordinance, which will make revisions to the schedule much more simple and efficient. So that's basically a summary in a nutshell of what you have before you. I'll turn it back over to you, Tom.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment on the ordinance, Mr. Carlson?
Yes, we have 1 comment that was received relative to the draft that came in by email this morning at 7:41. It was from Mr. Tony Christofferson, who is the town chair for the town of Elk Mound. It states, "Hello, Planning Resources and Development Committee. The town of Elk Mound thanks the staff and committee for their work on the land division ordinance. As currently written, all of the landowners," it says is Dunn County, I believe that should say in Dunn County, "have the same rights and land use opportunities. Thank you, Tony Christopherson, Chairman, Town of Elk Mound." And that concludes the public comments that we received.
Okay, and there's no one that wants to be heard today on the call?
I do not believe so, no.
Okay, all right. Well, then I'd ask the committee members if they have any comments or questions or statements they want to make at this point in time. I'm not surprised. As we talked about before the meeting a little bit, this has been long in development, and we want to thank our staff for the great work they've done, and for everyone in the county who's had comments and questions about it. Any comments from the committee? Okay. Then we'll close the public portion of the hearing. And without objection, because I think it'll be fairly quickly, why don't we go down to item 8, which is possible action in consideration of the ordinance. Would anyone care to make a motion to approve the ordinance?
Number 9.
Number 9, excuse me.
Mr. Chairman, Supervisor Morehouse moves approval of the land division condominium and surveying regulations ordinance.
Is there a second?
I will second it, Supervisor Kinnear.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay, then I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, say no. Motion carried. Thanks to everybody for a lot of good work over a long period of time. Let's see, let's go back up then to staff reports, beginning with Register of Deeds report. You've all had this in our packets. Heather, you have any comments? No?
Nothing additional to add.
Okay. Any questions from the committee? Okay. Move on to ENS reports. Mr. Carlson?
I don't have anything additional to add, other than I was quite surprised at the value our truck brought. We were anticipating roughly $2,000 at public auction, and with the way the markets are right now, the highest bid was $3,350. So that was really, really unexpected. So good news, a little extra income or money for the department.
Absolutely. Any other questions, Mr. Carlson? Okay. Planning and zoning monthly report. It's been a busy month, Ann. Any further comments?
Nothing additional.
Any questions from the committee? Okay. Chase. I think you're muted, Chase.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. I don't really have too much to add other than very similar to Tom's experience with his truck that went on public auction. We had 2 vehicles. One was a Ford F-150 pickup that we've had since 2007. And then we also had another one that was carried over from Morgan and Recycling Solid Waste that went to auction. And I can't speak to the exact anticipated revenue for that Ford Focus from Recycling Solid Waste, but my hunch is that it came in well above what we were expecting. And then as well as our pickup came in over double what we were expecting as well. So good news there. On the next sheet there, Tom, just looking at my budget, our division's budget. Just want to call out for the grants and just remind everybody that a lot of our grant revenues, you can see we have 91% remaining to receive yet. A lot of those will come in here in the next couple months and even into next year. So we'll be posting those back as those grant revenues come in. We will have some carry forwards due to projects, as I mentioned in my report, some projects not being able to be completed due to contractor availability and weather, even though we had a really good construction season. There are just some things that didn't quite pan out. So my understanding is that that's typically normal. And that's been my experience before, is we do have several carry forward dollars for grants and cost share. So other than that, if you have any questions, let me know.
Any questions?
Supervisor Kinnear?
Yes.
Supervisor Kinnear? I see you're working with O'Galley folks to get a lake association. I'm curious, are there other lake associations in the county that you work with? I know we just kind of disbanded.
Yeah, so the O'Galley folks are interested in their main focus is looking at sedimentation in the upper reaches, the kind of the head of Lake O'Galley. And the association pathway is a likelihood for them in order to look at grant funding eligibility to focus on some of their concerns. We do have the Lake District that is on Elk Creek Lake. I mentioned in my report too, we're working with them on a sedimentation project to reduce some sedimentation and erosion. And then we are in conversation with a friends group, Friends of the Red Cedar Basin, which is mainly focused around Tainer Lake. And they are looking at exploring their options for forming a lake district on that particular body of water. Beyond that, those are the activities regarding lakes in the county at this time.
Thank you.
Question, Tom?
Sure.
Chase, what is the status of the logging south of Dunville? Over the years, that's been talked about. There's a lot of pine tree plantations. Have you any information on that at all?
Yeah, I do. I've had some news on that lately. I'm kind of waiting to see how the next stages will go. But there is a crossing, a rock crossing that provides access through an easement on private property through the Chippewa River to the Dunn County Islands, where we do have timber stand out there. It's hasn't been used since about 2012, is my understanding. And we were kind of in the process working through DNR to make sure that we were able to still use that access, and if we needed to do repairs that we could. And I just received recently confirmation from DNR that we are allowed to reuse that access and maintain it as long as it stays within the footprint of what was originally permitted. So now we'll be in that next phase of revisiting with our forestry partners as to what type of timber stand or timber sale options are out there, and then exploring what those will look like. I know we had expected some potential expenses and or revenues as a part of that for 2021, but I guess with my arrival here and trying to get under my feet under me, as well as navigating through that permitting process, we haven't been able to get that done this year, but hoping to do more of that towards next year. So there may be options for timber sale out there in the future.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Chase.
Thank you.
Then I think we're down to item 8, review and take action on foreclosed property sale. Barbara, or Nick, you can take this, or Barbara?
Yeah, I am. Barbara had court this morning, so she asked me to present this. Actually, she told me to present this. We received a bid. This is a really small parcel. It's 0.4 of an acre, 0.4 acre. I think it's less than 1/10 of an acre. Although the GIS could be wrong, it's a really small sliver. And I guess there wasn't a map included in the packet. It's in the town of Dunn. It's landlocked, and there's the taxes that were due were at the time of the foreclosure was $17.90. Now, we did send letters to the adjacent owner and received no response. And so now we've received the committee set the minimum bid at $100, and we've received a bid of $105 from a company called Skyline Real Estate Services LLC, or Real Estate Serve LLC. And if I recall correctly, this is a company out of California. They bid on another parcel that the committee had rejected the bid. What they do is they buy up property and then they collateralize it. So, if they buy, say, for example, this is a small lot. If they would buy 50 of those in Wisconsin, they would be able to say that they have 25 acres of land in Wisconsin, and then they use it as collateral for leveraging loans and investments in real estate. That's the way she kind of explained it to me. It's a landlocked parcel. The adjacent landowner apparently isn't interested in it. And so we have this bid of $105. It's not a lot. I guess it's steep wooded land. And so it's not anything that could be built on. And so I guess that's the bid. We have this bid. The property was taken in 2019. So we've had it for a couple of years trying to see if anybody wants it.
Any questions from the committee?
Nick, are there any downsides to selling a piece of property like this? Like in the future, will it get, could they go bankrupt, or are there any downsides, Nick?
I guess probably the only downside from the county's perspective would be that if they buy the property and then stop paying the taxes on it, we'd have to include it in a foreclosure proceeding again. But I think that's a risk, for any property, whether the county is already in possession of it and sells it, or someone just sells it. It's not quite a triangle. It would be a triangle, except one of the edges of the lot is kind of wavy. And I honestly don't know how it was created, other than I suspect it follows the top of a ravine. And so it doesn't appear to be useful for farmland, and so I don't really see a downside for us, for the county. I don't think there's any any bad potential. Obviously, if we were able to sell it to an adjacent landowner, we could integrate, we could combine the lots for tax bill purposes and kind of clean up the land records. But I don't think there is a downside to this, as somebody is just willing to pay money to own this land, and I don't know what their plan is. It's landlocked, so there's no access. They'd have to get an easement or permission from someone else. Yeah, Tom's got it up now. Yeah, it's this blue line here. But
thank you. I think you answered my question,
Yeah.
Nick. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Question for Nick.
Yes.
I know that if you're selling property, that you cannot create a landlocked parcel, but if it's already landlocked, then that can be sold legally, right?
Yeah, I don't know how we could be prohibited from selling it. I don't know who we took it from. I don't know who the previous owner was, but I mean, otherwise the county would own it in perpetuity.
Mhm.
I suppose there are, I mean, if we did that, there would be potential liability risks. I mean, there'd be unlikely, but potential liability risks that would incur at some point in time. So your recommendation is that there's no reason kind of not to go forward with the sale. Guess that's
Well,
it.
I think the key to it is the bidder's intent is to simply, include the property in inventory. And I doubt that there's any intended use. I think she mentioned she would try to log it in the correspondence that accompanied the bid, but I don't know how she'd be able to do that without permission from somebody. And I guess it's a grade, pretty steep grade. So given that there's not really any big use for it, I really think it's hard to make a recommendation against it because it puts it back on the tax roll, and we were able then to put money into the county's bank account rather than just hang on to a small parcel at the end of this tract, GC Rentals.
Okay. Any other questions? What's the committee wishes on this? Anyone want to make a motion?
Supervisor Bjork makes a motion that we accept that bid for $100 for that parcel.
I think it's $105, right?
Okay, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Gary. Is there a second?
Supervisor Kinnear will second it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Both say no. Motion carries. Are there any announcements anyone has?
Supervisor Kinnear?
Yeah.
I don't know if you qualified as an announcement, but a couple of things. I think we should consider meeting in person as a committee. Maybe having the public participate via Zoom still, but consider that. And the other one was something that I brought up to Tom and Tom. If we're going to have a special meeting for the county board, would it be possible to have our reading for the ordinance that we just passed move along a little quicker? And you gave me a response on that, but I just was wondering if it's even possible or if the agenda is already set. And Dave, perhaps you could answer that.
The agenda has not been set. We will have to talk Mr. Miller into that, though. He wanted to keep the agenda very short to only what needed to be.
And my reason for it is we have a land division coming up here in the town of Menominee, and it'd be nice to have our new ordinance in place for that. May or may not be, but just a consideration. Thank you.
I don't have a problem with it, so I will talk to him about it.
And I don't mean to be going over Chairman Quinn's head here. I just wanted to kind of bring it up here, Tom, just to see if it's possible. And I'll leave it up to you to decide what to do, of course.
Sure. Okay, thanks, Mike. That's a good point. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, as to Supervisor Kinnear's first point, I understand the impetus for meeting in person, but I think we would be prudent to wait until our case positivity gets down to a more manageable level. I mean, I understand that this is tiresome, but feels to me like we have some obligation to model appropriate behaviors.
Thank you. Any other comments? Questions? Okay.
Questions, Tom?
Yep.
At the last county board meeting, I thought I heard something about maybe the CFO might be moving on. Would I, misinterpret something, or
He's retiring.
He's retiring. Yeah.
I guess that's moving on then. So I wasn't quite sure what there was. I just caught a little bit of it. So, and that's in January then he's retiring?
Dave Bartlett, is that your understanding?
Yeah, I don't know the exact date, but it's little past the first of the year, I believe.
My recollection is that he was going to be at the January county board meeting.
Yeah. Yeah.
So after that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay. The item 11, we had tentatively scheduled a meeting for our second meeting of the month for next week, actually. But we can cancel it if we don't have anything urgent. Does staff have any sense of whether we have items that need to be dealt with, or would it be okay to cancel that meeting?
And Tom, I sent a request out for agenda items a week ago yesterday. The only thing that we have is our standing agenda item at the second meeting of each month for the groundwater ad hoc committee recommendation updates on that. And Chase does have information put together on that. That is the only thing I've received. And again, it's a standing item. So I guess that's up to, it's your discretion. I guess if we do have the meeting next week, that would be the only thing that would be on there. And I do not believe it's time sensitive. It's certainly not an action item. So it would be your call whether or not you want to hold the meeting for that one item. Otherwise,
Okay.
otherwise our next regularly scheduled meeting would be December 14th.
All right. Well, then without objection, I would suggest that we ask that we cancel next week's meeting and move on to our December meeting. Any problem with that, anybody? Okay. With that, then, thank you all.